Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have our continuing Global Disruptors series, Cars24, Globalising via the UAE. We've just sat down with our CEO of Hero Moto Corp. We're staying on the theme of mobility and cars as part of our Global Disruptors series and Globalising via the UAE. I'd like to invite on stage Vikram Chopra, co-founder of Cars24. How are you? Great, Vikram, good to see you.
Likewise.
So the motorbike industry is really developing, it's changing.
Yeah, I mean, in India, the market that we originally started, there are very few cars per 1,000 people. Like I think from a per capita perspective, we are lowest in terms of car ownership, like 2 cars per 100 people. So, and obviously both new cars and pre-owned cars will grow. And I think affordability is a key driver, at least in India. And their pre-owned cars make a lot of sense.
So Cars24 is, we know, fast growing, Australia-based business. Your journey started in Melbourne just last year actually.
Yes.
What would you say your mission is then?
Look, I think we are making buying and selling pre-owned cars a great experience, which traditionally it's not. I mean, anybody who has bought or sold a car usually is not saying great things about it. Mm-hmm. They're pretty bad things to say. Yeah. So we not only want to make that experience a great experience, but we also want to make it better than buying a new car as an experience, for example. So yeah, that's what we are driving. And in a market like India, I think we are also helping. The affordability angle is big, right? We are actually allowing a lot of first-time buyers who are experiencing car ownership for the first time to actually buy a pre-owned car without worrying that, okay, this car will hopefully work for as long as I keep it with me. And in markets like UAE, Australia, Thailand, where the car ownership is already pretty high, we are just sort of reinventing the entire experience of buying and selling. So let me just give 30 seconds on how we do it.
How you do it, yeah. Right? So I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, so traditionally buying and selling a car, you go to a local dealership. If you have to sell, then you go haggle for selling a car. If you're buying, then you go visit several used car dealerships and try and find a car of your liking and try and sort of figure out for yourself whether it's a lemon or not. Mm-hmm. We take this entire experience fully online, right? So in a way, what we are is Amazon for cars, right? We believe that every category will eventually move online. Books started with books, electronics, furniture, and now cars, right? So pre-owned cars has seen the adoption faster, but at some point I think even new cars and new bikes will also see that adoption happening. So if you are looking to sell a car or buy a car, you just come online, and like how you order anything on Amazon, you come on Cars24 on the app, order your car, the car comes to your door. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, return it. No questions asked. You're happy to take the car back. So suddenly the experience is incredible, right? You have thousands of cars to choose from, and you never have to worry about getting stuck with a lemon because we are being super transparent about pricing and about cars.
But do the cars have to go through any particular test? People have to provide a certificate first or anything like that? Or?
That's sort of what we have done and learned over the last 6 years. So think of us, as I said, we are Amazon of cars, but we also have to build out the entire infrastructure ourselves, right? So used car markets in India and everywhere else is super fragmented. So what it means is the ecosystem is pretty unorganized. So for us, when we buy a car from a seller, right? Let's say you want to sell your car, we'll just come to your home and pick your car up. Then we actually take the car into our in-house reconditioning centers, where we actually, bring the car up to the standards that we think the consumer want them to be, right? So try and make them as good as new as possible. And then the cars stay at a warehouse, consumers can buy online, and then we literally have our own trucks that take the car out and deliver to your doorstep.
So how did you get the why did you feel you wanted to start this business? Were you actually looking to buy a car yourself?
I mean, in 2010, when I was going for my MBA to the US, I had when I was going, I had the experience of selling my car, which was painful. And when I came back after 6 months, I dropped out, so I had experience of buying another car. And this time, I want to buy a pre-owned car because I had limited budget, and that was a bad experience too. But I honestly didn't think about it too much at that point. Before Cars24, I was doing another venture called Fab Furnish, where we were selling furniture online. And in that business, we realized that in a lot of categories, you have to solve supply before demand, right? And this is, at least in our mind, this was an unintuitive insight, because most businesses think about just going directly after the buyer, right? We went after the seller first, right? And in our business, the seller and the buyer are both consumers, so it's sort of additionally complicated because you're dealing with consumer on both sides.
Right.
So our insight was, look, there are several categories where you have to start with seller and not buyer. And we first solved the problem for the seller, like giving a great experience to somebody selling their car. And then we migrated towards also helping buyers get a great experience buying their cars.
Now, you started in Australia, you're in India, and now you're in the UAE. So why the UAE particularly?
Yeah, so UAE was actually the first market that we went outside of India. To be honest, UAE to us felt like adding another city to India, right? Because it was easy for us to, like, a lot of our colleagues in India were very happy to move to Dubai. A lot of people would love to be here. So it's very easy to send a lot of talent who could then train people that we hire here. So that's just from that comfort perspective of like understanding it's your own people. You understand the geography because all of us have traveled a lot here, so they have a bit more understanding. So UAE was kind of an obvious choice of, it's sort of running a pilot, if you will, whether you can do well internationally or not. And once we realize that we are seeing good success, I was sharing this with you yesterday that the revenues that we did in India by the end of year 3, we did the same in UAE in 4 months, right? So that's the ramp up has been unbelievably great. And then we got confidence and we said, okay, we'll go after Australia and Thailand.
So, normally a unicorn is reaching $1 billion, but your value at the moment around $2 billion.
Yeah.
And tell us about your story with Sequoia SoftBank. Where do they play a part in this and your success?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, we believe that internet allows you to scale businesses fast, right? I mean, some things that you cannot, like if you're setting up an offline dealership, you are limited, there are limits to how fast you can scale because you have to open up showrooms and you need sales staff, etc., right? For us, at least, a lot of those limits get removed. So yeah, for us, it's trade-off between, and I think many internet startups think like that, it's a trade-off between, yes, you take dilution at some point, but also perhaps you save time, right? You could build an outcome that otherwise you will build in, say, 15 years and 5 years, right? And what you could do in 50 years, you could perhaps do it in 10, 15 years. So, I mean, it's great to have likes of DST, SoftBank, Sequoia on the cap table. I mean, it helped the fact that I worked at Sequoia in the past. So I knew, they knew me and I knew them. But look, they have done similar businesses in used cars elsewhere as well, right? So this is right now a global theme. I think in next 5 years, in every country of the world, there will be a large used car online player. What we are trying to say is that can we be that player in many of these countries in the world and emerge as not just India's largest used car online retailer, but amongst one of the largest in the world. And we'll see how far we succeed with that.
I mean, 2 years and $2 billion, and it's still such a young company. I mean, so let's say in the next 5 years, what are your targets and how many markets do you see you being into?
Yeah, I think we will. There are enough geographies in this region, and then Australia, New Zealand, and there are many more countries in Southeast Asia. So I think we'll continue to stick around this part of the world, and there are obviously several other countries to cover. Obviously, I think our decision of expanding into more countries or not will depend on how well we continue to do in these countries. So I guess the way we are trying to keep it simple to ourselves is, focus on our input metrics, not output. Valuation is an output metric, right? You may or may not be doing well, and your valuation may not be the right barometer. So just focus on input metrics, which is, do we have a great selection on our platform? Are our customers happy? What's our NPS like? Are they saying great things about us or not? And lastly, are we sort of bringing our costs down over time, etc., right? Because you have to generate free cash flows soon enough.
Do you see a future where, obviously, in the next, let's say, 5, 6 years, a lot of people are going to have to get rid of their gas-guzzling cars, and then what's going to happen to the market? Because there's going to be a flood of these older generation cars as hybrid and electric comes in.
Yeah.
Or do you think people are starting to think that now already and saying, I need to possibly think about getting rid of my lovely old car?
Yeah, I think I believe that, the what sort of happened with mobile phones, where you change a mobile phone every year because there's some new model that Apple comes up with,
right,
is exactly the same thing that's going to happen to cars anyway. It's already happening, right? Lots of earlier there were only hardware upgrades, now you have hardware and software upgrades, and new software upgrades don't work on older hardware and so on. In general, I think everywhere the tenure at which people churn their cars has been coming down. So I think there will be a gradual shift to electric cars, obviously, undoubtedly. But at the same time, even there, I think the churn will continue to happen, because at some level, more software into the cars and bikes also, I guess, like, people want to continue to upgrade with new features.
So, in a sense, technology, e-commerce is at the core of your business. You couldn't have done your business without that.
No, I think, 2012, when I started my first venture selling furniture online, my entire thesis was that there are several categories, and I tried 2 of them, which is furniture and cars, where it's structurally disadvantaged to be an offline player, to be honest, right? Because the first thing consumer cares about is selection, right? And it's impossible for any physical offline dealership to offer more than 50 or 100 cars at a store, right? Whereas we can offer tens of thousands of cars to a consumer. So it's the same proposition that is true for books and consumer durables is also true for cars. It's even more true for used cars, because every car is unique. Everybody has their own requirement on what car they want to buy, and hence selection becomes so powerful. So to give you an example, in UAE, we have right now, we have a 5-month-old business, and we have 1,500 cars in our assortment. A local dealership will have at best 25 or 50. That's a huge difference. The likelihood you will find the car that you're looking for, whether it's 2-year-old or a particular color or a particular variant kind, the likelihood you will find the car with us is 10x higher than that you will find at a local dealership. So there is a huge structural advantage of being online.
What happened to the furniture project?
The big learning from the furniture project was we had to solve supply before demand, which is what we did in used cars. Unfortunately, most of the furniture was coming from China and Vietnam. And at that point, we didn't know how to supply that using technology, using internet. So we sold that off to the Future Group. And then we got on doing in cars, because in cars, thankfully, the supply and demand is both local.
Are you a believer that to be an entrepreneur, you've got to go through a few businesses before you're going to hit the right one, the jackpot, like you have with yours at the moment, with your Cars24? I mean, you have to get that experience in order to move forward. You shouldn't be, shouldn't have a knockback or be disillusioned by a failure.
Yeah.
Do you believe that? As an entrepreneur?
I think what's helped me, and I'm sure to many other, certain level of naivety definitely helps, right? Not sort of overthinking and wondering whether you're good or not. So I think even when sort of we did Furnish, of course, it was nowhere close to the success that we wanted to achieve with that one. But I think it was great learning in terms of things that we didn't do well, right? For example, as co-founders, we realized that we are perhaps not very good managers, and unless you can be great managers, how do you build great team around you? So I think in 6 years of Cars24, we have been work in progress, but I think we have made, relative to where we were, I think we have made good progress in building a great team, and I think it's the team that helps you succeed more than, you can lay out the vision, but you can't do everything on your own.
But how did you deal with the management skills that you needed?
Read. I think reading helps a lot. I think in today's world, all the material is online. Tons of books out there of all the experiences that entrepreneurs have had. A lot of podcasts to learn from, and then just sort of keeping doing a lot of frank conversations internally, asking our people on giving us feedback as well on what we can do better. I think what's definitely helped us is that we have managed to remove emotion out of business, even amongst co-founders. So we are very honest with each other about things that we haven't done well, or continue to not do well, or a project that I tried 3 months ago and it bombed. Just taking emotion out of things has helped. And at FabFinish, probably we were far more emotional about things than we are right now.
Being so successful, who would you say you put down that inspiration to, the person you looked up to in the early days?
So first of all, I do not think very successful yet, because what we are doing is playing a high risk, high return game, right? Hopefully we can create a very large company, Indian company, to go and dominate the world, which is why we have launched several other countries. But at the same time, it may not work out, right? And we may sort of squander away what we already had, right? So we'll see. The time will tell. We are trying to play a bigger game than what our abilities are, but we are hopeful that we'll learn along the way. In terms of taking inspiration, I think, look, everybody has, every story has something to take away from, right? Be it bootstrap companies who have sort of done it over 15 years, be it founders like me who are on their second or third startups, and the 20-year-olds who sort of are building while they're 19 or 20, and all the entrepreneurs in India before us, right, who sort of built everything in India, from cars and bikes and airlines and steel and so on, right? So there is something to take away from everyone. And then sports person, right? Being a sports fanatic definitely helps to learn from your sports idols.
So would you diversify now, or would you say, no, we're going to focus just on our core business? Or do you see diversification coming in later in your business lines?
As I said, I think we are trying to bite even right now what we can chew. So we'll continue to build our skills to be able to handle multiple geographies and hopefully win most of them. However, that said, we will do more stuff in the value chain of the cars, and maybe even do two-wheelers, simply because, just working backwards from the consumer, right? When a consumer is buying or selling a car, they are also looking at insurance, warranty, after-sale support, etc., which we aren't providing fully right now. So that sort of is an obvious extension to keep providing consumers great experience. Similarly, as I was saying, a lot of our consumers have a two-wheeler and then they are buying a car, example in India. So again, to help them in that transition is providing them a great experience. So some of the stuff, but very much focused on this part of mobility.
Is the consumer always right, do you think? Do you believe in that philosophy?
No, no. I think it's depend on the context. I think the framework that I use, and of course it's a framework, so it's not always correct, is that for incremental stuff, perhaps yes. For dramatic stuff, perhaps no, right? So if we, for example, if we were to try and ask consumers, would you buy a car online? Most will say no, right? But the point is, and they're right that most will not buy a car online. But if I'm looking at 5% market share, I just need 5 people to say yes, right? But the survey can sort of, demoralize you, thinking, oh God, 95 are saying no. But the other way to look at it is there are 5 who are saying yes. So, and even if you can get those 5, you can build a very large business to start with. So yeah, it depends on how you read the data, and for dramatic stuff, transformational stuff, perhaps not always consumer knows what they want. So
all right, well,
personal opinion, I may be wrong.
we'll wrap up there, but just briefly, who is your sporting hero, so to speak? Which sport are you really into?
Obviously cricket.
Okay.
Undoubtedly. I think for last few years, I would say the entire cricket team of India, like the entire playing 11, playing 25, it's amazing. I mean, few things, right? I mean, they genuinely play as a team. They genuinely back each other. You can clearly see there are much fewer egos than there used to be many years ago. They are clearly not afraid to try things that India has never done in the past. So I think every time India wins a match, I think I definitely go back to my office with renewed energy.
Brilliant. Well, we'll leave it there. Vikram Chopra, co-founder of Cars24. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.